Once again, my name is Ed Zamora from Principia Prep, and today we're going to be going over the college aid process for sophomores and juniors as of now, March 2021. For you guys coming in now, pretty much we're going to be going over a bunch of different aspects. Now, if you guys have questions throughout the presentation, once again, just type in the Q&A. I will be answering questions as we go through the process. So let's begin. Today's presentation, we're going to be going over a bunch of different things that are going to be happening over the next year or two, especially for you sophomores and juniors looking to the college process going forward. We're going to talk about the new landscape of college with everything going on with COVID and so on and so forth, and kind of how everything's kind of taken hold and things have changed. We're also going to be going over the financial aid landscape, what's changed, the new forms, new things that kind of come into the mix because of the CARES Act and everything else. We're also going to talk about how admissions affects the financial aid process, as well as gap year and deferments, basically taking a year off, something that's become very popular now because of the whole COVID situation. We'll talk about that for you guys as well, but hopefully it'll be more normalized by the time the sophomores and juniors get into the mix of the college process. We're also going to talk about SAT, ACT optional schools, as well as SAT, ACT blind schools as far as it comes to the testing itself. We're also going to be going over the safety, target, and reach schools, how they kind of affect the financial aid process, as well as the different financial aid forms. We're also going to be going over social landmines, as far as social media landmines, and different things you want to try to avoid throughout this whole process. Now, one thing that we have been doing, especially since we've had so many presentations this year. This year I've done about 90 presentations. It's about 15 or so more than I usually do in a year because everything is obviously being done through Zoom. So a lot of parents have been asking a lot of different questions about obtaining grants, financial aid forms. Do interviews matter? Do alumni interviews matter? Why should I do the FAFSA, SAT, ACT stuff? So as you can see here on YouTube, we actually created a channel. If you just go to YouTube, just type my name in, Ed Zamora. I think we have some like 50 or 60 videos now about different college content, different questions I can answer for you guys, avoiding scams, scholarship searches, a whole bunch of different things on there, things you should be doing right now. We pretty much cover the whole gambit of stuff. We're adding videos pretty much every other week too. So we're just adding more to that. Plus the video that we're recording here tonight for you guys will also be on there as well. So if you're looking for more college content, one of the places you can go is obviously the YouTube channel. And look me up, just type in Ed Zamora, and you'll be able to basically see the additional videos we have up there as well. Now, that being said, let's talk about kind of where you guys are in the mix right now. Now, right off the bat, for sophomores and juniors that haven't figured out exactly what they want to apply to, I wouldn't worry about it, mainly because of the fact there's over 4,000 colleges out there. There is a school for you guys. You just kind of have to find your way through it just by doing research and other things. Some of the things we'll be talking about here tonight of how to kind of find some of the colleges to help yourselves and places you might want to apply, things you might want to look at. Now, thankfully for sophomores and juniors, they're starting to open up the campuses. So that's another thing I'm going to be talking about too, college visits in a moment. So you have the opportunity where you're going to have more of a normalized situation where this year, the biggest issue you saw was most students were not able to see the colleges, which meant, unfortunately, students were applying to more colleges than ever before. Because if you couldn't see your top 5 schools, but you think you're top 5 as a way to kind of safety your situation, kind of add more safety to your list, instead of applying to the normal 8 to 10 colleges most students apply to, this year the normal list was 15 to 16 colleges students apply to, which meant more students applying, record numbers for admissions, harder to get into. So it was a difficult environment for the seniors this year. For the juniors and sophomores, it's going to open up. The campus is going to be reopened again sooner than later. You will be able to see the schools, which means more likely the competition level, in a sense, from an application point of view, will drop for you guys. So it will be a little bit easier for you guys, for juniors and sophomores in 21, the school year we're in right now, for next year when you guys are applying to college or thinking about it for the sophomores on the call. Also, college is really what you make of it. So I wouldn't look at it as if your student can't apply to certain schools because of a GPA or SAT scores, that all of a sudden they're not going to end up going somewhere they're not going to like. There's many colleges out there, and there's always a college for every student, which kind of brings me to the next topic. If your student has not been doing well academically in school, that's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's not a good thing either, but they may not have found their niche. They may not have found or their drive or their ambition, the thing that they're passionate about just yet. And just to give you an idea, obviously this guy here on the screen, his high school GPA was a 2.65. So in high school, he didn't do very well, but later on, he did pretty well. I mean, pretty likely your phone was created and helped by this individual here, your laptop, your cell phone, and God knows what else. So the reality is, what you need to do is make sure you can find your student or help your student find their passion or their gift, but realize that they haven't found it as of yet, or they're lacking motivation. It doesn't mean they're automatically, shot themselves in the foot. I mean, it's not helpful if you have a GPA of a 2.65, obviously, especially not the college realm if you're looking to apply, but there is a college for everyone. That being said, in some cases, students, if the maturity level is not there yet, community college is a great starting point. What most families don't realize, especially when it comes to community college, most community colleges are actually set up to be more difficult than the 4-year bachelor degree programs because the community college is setting up the foundation to get you ready for the 4-year program. So in some cases, I've talked to students who have gone to county college, and they've actually told me it's harder there than when they transfer over to the 4-year program. So there are different facets, different ways to get into college. And obviously, your student doesn't have to be the valedictorian to get into every single school. That being said, one other note I want to touch on this as well. Since I do about 85, 90 high schools every year, obviously there's a list of schools where every student wants to go to. Everyone wants to go to Harvard and Stanford and Columbia and Notre Dame and so on and so forth. And I mean, I understand that. That's a given all the way across. However, going to these schools doesn't automatically trigger that you're successful. And not going to these schools doesn't automatically trigger that you're not successful. It's not the way it works. It all depends on what your student does with their life, their career, and so on and so forth. To kind of highlight that point, I basically put on here a list of the top 13 schools with the most Fortune 500 CEOs. And if you look a little bit further down in the list here, ranked 11th is Indiana University, as well as Rutgers University. So you can see Rutgers is actually ranked higher than MIT for the amount of CEOs it's created from its alumni. So the reality is, if your student is not going to the top tier, it doesn't mean everything is over with. This is one of the things I talk about with families all the time. And by the way, I've been in the world of college for 23 plus years now. So I've been dealing with teenagers for a very long time. Okay. So that being said, if you don't get into your first choice or your second choice, it doesn't mean everything is kind of falling apart and the whole world's going to end and you're not going to have a great career. It's not the way it works. College is typically what you make of it, is the way it works. That's why I have these two charts on here, the one about Steve Jobs and also here about the CEOs, to show you that college is typically what you make of it, not always what the name of the school is. Okay. That being said, let's start talking about, for juniors and sophomores, how do you start figuring out, or how do you start building your college list, either from a financial point of view or admissions point of view, grades, SAT, ACT scores you have? How do we even start creating a list if we haven't even started or have no idea where to start? Very simple. Obviously, through the high school, you have the Navion system at the high school you're coming from, but you also have CollegeBoard. CollegeBoard is probably the most helpful website that any parent can utilize, and most parents do not utilize, which doesn't make any sense to me, but it's just the way it is. CollegeBoard is typically utilized by most students to sign up for the SATs, AP stuff, PSAT stuff, a whole bunch of other things. But the CollegeBoard site, collegeboard.org, by the way, or .com, they own both, but the default is .org. Collegeboard.org is actually a wealth of information about colleges. If you go to this website, and in the top right, you see a little blue section that says search there. It's on the website. You type in any school's name, and what happens is you pop up the school's profile. Now, the school's profile gives you a wealth of knowledge. It shows you where the school is located, how big it is. It's a 4-year, 2-year, co-ed. It shows you everything. Is it rural? Is it city? It even goes into depth into the financial aspects of it, such as, how much does the school cost? Does the school offer scholarship money? Does it only offer grant money? Does it offer both? So maybe you get the opportunity of getting grant money if we have financial need, or scholarship money if we have a very bright student. That's the financial side. From the admissions side, the CollegeBoard profile of every college also indicates how difficult, or I guess how selective the college is to get into. It also will indicate to you a vast amount of information about SAT requirements, ACT, GPA, typical students that come into this college, as well as it can provide you on that profile a list of other colleges. So if you know you want to go to, let's say, Vermont, if you go to the University of Vermont's profile on CollegeBoard, it'll show you the other schools that students are applying to Vermont are also looking to apply to. So for parents, for those looking for information or help, you should be on the CollegeBoard site as much as possible. If your student comes home and says, I'm in love with Oberlin or Swarthmore or Haverford or Harvey Mudd, and you have no idea what they're talking about, not a problem. You go on here, it'll show you everything you need to know about that college. The cost, the requirements to get in, the majors available. Are they providing scholarships? Are they providing grant money only? Which financial aid forms do they need? What are the deadlines for these forms? It's a great place to go, and a free website to utilize to help you in this whole process. Which brings us to another big point that's come up, especially because of COVID and everything going on, which is essentially the SAT, ACT optional situation. Now, what's happened is in the last year or so, mostly because of COVID and everything else as far as not being able to take the SATs or ACTs, we've seen an explosion of schools going SAT optional or SAT blind. Now, let's discuss the two first. SAT optional means you as a student, i.e. the family, but let's call it the student, you as a student have the option of saying, yes, I'm going to send my scores in, or no, I'm not going to send my scores in. SAT blind, the school says they're SAT blind, means they don't care if you send it or not, they're not going to look at it. That's kind of the way it works. So you kind of have a choice. Do we send the test scores in or not send them in? Which brings us into this kind of gray area where a lot of families ask me, well, if my student scored a good SAT or has a good, if they have a good SAT score or a good ACT score, should we send it in? And it all depends on the college. And this is what I mean by the college. If it's a high tier school and you're not scoring a decent SAT or ACT score, I wouldn't send it in because it's not going to help you. But if you are scoring well enough, then I would. So the question always pops up, well, how do we know if it's a good SAT score or ACT score for this college? Very simple. Right off the bat, contact the admissions office. You can just ask them right over the phone. Or you can ask to speak to the representative representing your state, and they will tell you what a good score is or not to send in and what they would consider. The benefit of the admissions office, if you speak to them specifically, if you could do a one-on-one, face-to-face, it's better, by the way. Phone call is second best, and third is the third best way of doing this. Now, if you can speak to an admissions representative face-to-face and say something like, my student has a 1300 SAT score or 27 ACT, would it be a good idea to send this in? Face-to-face, they're going to be very candid with you and say to you, well, typically something like, in the last year or last 2 years, our typical SAT score is roughly around 1350 on average. That's their way of saying, if you don't hit 1350 and we're SAT optional, it's not going to help you send the test score in. It's just going to be either a moot point or it might actually hurt you. So that's the first place I'm going. The second place I'm looking at is Naviance, because on Naviance it's going to show you what the GPA and SAT requirements typically of students who got accepted to this college from your high school specifically had. If your scores are below that and the school is SAT optional, I probably am not going to send it. Now, the best place to go look to see which schools are going to continue to be SAT optional is this website right here, fairtest.org. This website here provides a wealth of information. If you look at the bottom down there, I actually have the link. On fairtest.org, there's the link right down there below. By the way, I'm recording this, so if you want to watch it again, you can get the link again if you watch the video on YouTube channel, which we'll be posting either tonight or tomorrow. On this website, it will show you all 1,600 plus SAT optional schools, SAT, ACT optional schools. So it's a great place to go, a great resource to utilize. For sophomores and juniors, if you see your schools on here, I would definitely call the admissions office and ask them, will you continue being SAT, ACT optional for next year or the year after, or what are you guys looking to do? That way you can kind of gauge your situation. If your student doesn't score well, maybe this is one of the schools we can keep on the list, even though our PSAT scores aren't coming back good or our practice tests aren't coming back well. This is one of those schools you might want to keep on there because they're SAT, ACT optional. In addition to that, let's talk about gap years or deferring a year, essentially. Now, a lot of students have taken a gap year this year, probably more than I've ever seen in my entire career in 23 years doing this. Obviously, because of the COVID situation, a lot of families figured instead of me basically having you in the living room paying $50,000 in tuition on a laptop, maybe we just take a year off. That's kind of the understanding of a lot of parents, because I also have a lot of families who decided to do the other way, which is basically have the student in the living room on an iPad paying $50,000 in tuition, and they're not very happy, which I completely understand. Because a lot of colleges' rationale is, well, you're still getting the same education. And the rationale is complete nonsense. Because the reality is, when you're paying the tuition bill, that tuition bill is not just paying for 3 hours in a classroom with a professor. That tuition bill is paying for the labs, the auditorium, the dorm rooms, the classrooms, everything on the campus. That's what the tuition is paying for. Obviously, the dorm fees are different. It's a little bit more expensive for the dorm stuff if you're dorming. But everything on campus, the gym, the fitness center, everything else, that's what your tuition dollars are paying for. So when the colleges come back and say, well, you're still getting the education, that's their way of saying, we're not going to give you the money back, unfortunately. I'm just giving you the broad, honest truth about how it works. Now, if you are considering taking a gap year, we do have a video on YouTube just on gap years, the deferments, how the financial aid works, so on and so forth. Most of the time, if you take a gap year, you can indicate to the college, I'm looking to defer because of certain reasons. Even if you're considering taking a gap year right now before you apply to college, I would still apply to college and just take a deferment year to say to them, I'm not coming this year for medical reasons, family reasons, financial, whatever it may be. Just you can take a year off. Most colleges will hold your admissions for up to 1 year. If you want to double check, ask the admissions office. As you see a trend here, you're always asking admissions because they have all the information you need. Now on the YouTube channel are gap year videos, about 15 minutes long. Most of the videos we have are like 10, 12 minutes, 15 minutes long. It gives you a wealth of knowledge as far as what resources to utilize, what groups are really good at doing the gap years. If you're looking to do traveling or taking courses or volunteer stuff, there's a lot of good stuff out there if you're looking to do a gap year. It's something that's become obviously a lot more prevalent, not more important because of the COVID situation. Now that being said, let's jump into, once again, building the college list. Not just from building it, but from the financial aid point of view. Now, most college lists, what you'll realize is, as they're building a list, as you're putting it together, it breaks into 3 categories, basically. Safety schools, which basically means your students they're going to get in. Very likely, they're going to get accepted to college. The target schools, which are kind of in the middle, more than likely going to get in, kind of what I call the 50-50 schools. Then you have the third category, which is the reach colleges, the one that's require maybe a higher test score, AP courses, IB, a higher GPA, maybe more difficult to get into, maybe I'm not going to get into, the dream schools like students kind of call it. Now, the way it works from an admissions point of view is that, okay? The way it works from a financial aid point of view is completely different. From a financial aid point of view, most families look at the safety school from an admissions point of view as, you got in, we have somewhere to go just in case everything falls apart. From a financial aid point of view, you should look at it differently. When you're putting together your school list, your safety school list is typically 1 to 3 colleges. So 1 to 3 schools of your list of, let's say, 8 to 10 or so. Of that, 1 to 3 of them will be generally the safety school where you might end up going to as a backup to the backups kind of thing. It's not just looking at it as a backup situation. You should also look at the safety school as a financial aid consideration. And this is what I mean by financial aid consideration. The safety school should be the school that offers you the most scholarship money. That is the financial key here when it comes to safety schools. If you want to find out if the school offers scholarships, very simple. CollegeBoard, or call the school's admissions office and ask them, do you offer merit-based scholarships? And if they say yes, ask to speak to an admissions representative, hopefully the rep for your state. Once they give you the rep, you can always sit down, basically their Zoom call that they're doing now, or if you can get face-to-face, hopefully in the next couple of months, it's even better. You can sit there and say to them, my student has this GPA, this test score, what do you think? Are we eligible for scholarship money here? If they say yes, your next question should be, can we get more? Is there a way to get more? If we have a higher GPA, higher SAT score, so on and so forth. Your goal for the safety schools on your list is not just a backup. That's a guaranteed backup. The next phase is you want to utilize that school as a starting point for leverage to negotiate other schools out of more money. So if the safety school gives you a very big scholarship, but you end up getting accepted to your target schools and reach schools, you can always use the safety school money, go back and appeal, which I'll talk about later on, and ask them for more money based on what the safety school is giving you. So just don't think about your school list as building it together as where I might have to go back up safety school. Think of it as the backup, but also the financial aid point of view from looking at it, being able to appeal based on what this school is giving us. And that being said, when it comes to admissions and the whole process works, there's basically 2 different ways to apply to college that break into very different categories. You have early action, restricted early action, regular, and rolling. Now, restricted early action, regular, and rolling, these 4 ways are non-binding. That means if you get accepted, you don't have to go. So these here don't lock you into having to go to the college, nor do they lock you into any financial aid package per se. Early decision 1 and early decision 2 do lock you in. So if your student's looking to do early decision 1, which is typically done around November 1st to December 1st, they have to send everything in early. You get accepted typically around Christmas and you have to go. You might not have that much leverage when it comes to appealing or asking for more financial assistance unless something has happened financially, like a job loss, death in the family, divorce, medical issue. So early decision, in some cases, they do lock you in, good, bad, or indifferent. That being said, though, in my 23 years of doing this, most of the early decision schools that I've seen and dealt with, ED1 or ED2, which is typically in January, February timeframe, for both ED1 and ED2 schools, most of the time, those schools will actually provide more financial aid than you're typically given by the regular or rolling pool or early action pools, because they realize the only way of getting out of early decision is you can't afford it. So early decision doesn't automatically mean they're going to lock you in and you're not going to get any money. So if you're thinking about ED, it's not a terrible idea. Obviously, converse with the guidance office to see if it's a good idea for your student to do it. And obviously as a family, talk about it, because once you get locked in, you can't go anywhere else kind of scenario. But I always tell families all the time, because I get asked the question all the time, and it actually popped up, if I do early decision, am I locked in and not going to get any money? It's not the way it works. Okay, I'm going to go through ways of finding out if your colleges are generous as well before you even apply ED, but I just wanted to give you an overview of the finances when it comes to admissions. Now, when you're doing regular, early action, everything else, you have until May 1st to decide. So you have a lot more, I guess, runway to negotiate though. So that's one thing to kind of consider. Now, another aspect of admissions that crosses over to the financial aid path is actually the common application. For those who aren't aware, for parents who aren't aware, most of your students will be filling out a form called the Common App. Now, the Common App is used to basically send out one application for admissions for all the colleges. So it kind of makes it streamlined so you can just send out one form to a bunch of different schools, making it faster and easier. Now, when it comes to the Common App, there's one financial question on here that I always get asked. And by the way, this question is asked by every college that uses the Common Application. If you look a little bit further down below on the screen here, I actually highlighted it in blue, light blue. Do you intend to apply for need-based aid? This question, by the way, is asked by every college. The question used to be asked only by colleges who cared about your ability to pay for college to be accepted to that school. Now, every school asks it, so no one knows if the school is looking for you from this point of view to be able to afford the college to get in, or not to afford it and not to be getting in scenario. Now, I always tell families the same thing. If you need financial help, always check yes for this box, okay? It's very rare that if you check no, we are not applying for financial aid, does it actually help you in the world of admissions? It's rare. It's usually they don't care, and this question is now commonplace, so you don't know which schools are using it against you and not. If you really want to know, you can actually just contact a school and ask them, is your school need aware or not? Ask the admissions office. If the school is need aware, that's basically their way of saying that yes, this is part of the criteria for acceptance or rejection or whatever you want to call it in the world of admissions. But it's a very small part. It's not a big part the way it used to be back in the day when selected schools did this. So if you need aid on the Common App, always check yes, okay? That being said, let's talk about the college visit and things that most families don't end up doing that you should be doing from admissions as well as a financial aid point of view. Now, when you're visiting the campus, right off the bat, you want to find out who your representative is for your state and find out if that person's able to be spoken to, that admissions rep. That's the way to start to build a relationship, your student and that rep, building a relationship. Everyone talks about building the relationship with admissions rep. This is when you can start doing it. A lot of colleges now, because of COVID, obviously are not available to do tours right now, but more schools are opening up. And the ones that are opening up, they're visiting college visit dates and everything else are filling up within like minutes, within hours, because so many people are trying to get on campus quickly. If your school offers a visit, or if your school, in some cases, also offer driving visits, this is where you drive to the campus, you turn your radio station to a certain station, and as you're driving through the school, it provides you information. If it's a top tier hard school to get into, and you can only do a driving tour now, do the driving tour if it's available for you. Obviously, if it's across the country and you can't do it, understandable. If they have a Zoom video, if they have anything they're doing online, do that, especially if it's a more competitive school, because once again, you're signing your student's name in, everything else. The more that you show interest, obviously the whole thing now is demonstrated interest, the more it's helpful. Now, if you are able to go on campus, get the person in admissions you talk to, get their business card. And one thing that every family does now, because now we're in a Zoom world, because obviously everything going on, everyone sends an email saying, thank you for taking the time to talk to us, so on and so forth. That used to be a good thing to do. It's not a good thing to do anymore. What you want to do is do that, plus, if you really want to stand out at a top tier school, have your student write a handwritten card, thanking that individual for taking the time, answering their questions, and letting them know this is definitely a school we're applying to, and I'd love to reach out to you if I have more questions. That is going to stand out in that person's mind. That's what you need to do if you want to stand out. For parents during the tour, your goal is to talk to the financial aid office, not the admissions office, because that's what your students are going to be doing. The reason you want to talk to financial aid is because you want to be able to sit down with them and say, here, and there's a few things you want to bring with you. You want to bring the student's high school transcript, even if it's unofficial, which is going to be unofficial. You want to bring their resume. Just put together their activities, honors, achievements, community service. Doesn't have to be exactly perfect for a job resume kind of thing. Just bulletin points. As well as you want to bring a copy of your last year's taxes. And you want to sit down with the financial aid office and say, based on everything you see here, are we eligible for grant money at your school? You want to kind of sit down and figure out from their point of view, can we get money from you? The second place you want to go after you talk to financial aid for parents is the admissions office. And you want to show them the transcript and the resume again, as well as SAT or ACT scores if you've taken them, and ask them, are we eligible for scholarship money at your school? So as a parent, you can know based on what the financial aid officer is going to tell you, because they're more candid face-to-face admissions and financial aid, by the way. You're going to be able to leave that campus knowing, number one, your student's going to tell you if they like it or not. So that's always a guarantee. Hopefully they tell you that. First thing you're going to know as a parent is how much scholarship money we can get here if we do attend or if we do apply. Number two, are we eligible for grant money? So being able to go on campus with certain things that no one else brings, the transcripts, the resume, the SAT, ACT scores, and the last year's tax returns, and you're able to sit down with a rep, I guarantee you're going to be leaving that campus with a lot more knowledge on the financial aid end as well as the admissions end than anybody else. Now, that being said, let's talk about sticker shock. Now, a lot of you guys are looking at the sticker price of the colleges and wondering, how the heck do these things get up to $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, which is unbelievable to consider, but yes, colleges nowadays are in the $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 range, and they're just going up. Now, before the pandemic started in March, when we first started doing videos, I actually have videos thinking that for some crazy reason that the college would stop increasing the price as far as the increases, but they haven't. Some of the colleges did decrease the price, so I can't say all of them didn't decrease the price. I can actually show you guys here. One of the colleges, Fairleigh Dickinson University, actually decreased its price for incoming freshmen for next year, and it looks like it's going to be going forward, by about 20 to 25%. So FDU is no longer $64,000. FDU is now in like the high 40s, which is a huge drop considering where they were before. Most colleges, unfortunately, have increased the price. Some, however, have either kept the price the same or said to parents, if your student does online courses, we will lower the price. So one of the things you want to be doing as you're going through this whole thing, obviously the sticker price is shocking. And if you look at some of the price tags, obviously Columbia is a great university, but $80,000, Fordham $80,000, NYU over $80,000 at this point in time. Next year will be for you guys because obviously every year the prices increase. These are staggering numbers. However, the last thing you ever want to do is look at a school's price tag and decide you can't apply there. Because unfortunately, good, bad, or indifferent, 60, 70,000 is the new normal. Unfortunately, it's just the reality that we live in nowadays. However, you never look at the price tag of a college. This is the number one mistake I always see from parents, from families, put that way, when it comes to the admission side. The first thing you do after you see the sticker price and you're shocked, because obviously $80,000 is ridiculous for any college. I'm going to just put that out there, and I've been doing this 23 years. There is no college that's really worth $85,000, $80,000. It's just ridiculous. But that being said, the sticker price is irrelevant to most families because many of the colleges that you see here, the reason I have these schools on here is that more than half the students attending these colleges here pay less than half the sticker price. So never look at the sticker price. The first thing you need to do is you need to start using these net price calculators. The net price calculators for the junior and sophomore parents, this is the key to figure out how generous your colleges are. The net price calculators, and the reason I have CollegeBoard's net price calculator on here is because most of the net price calculators are on the CollegeBoard site. Now, when it comes to net price calculator, it's essentially, the way it works is, the best way for me to explain is, it's going to give you exactly how much this college is going to cost you financially based on your financial situation. Now, most of the net price calculators are on CollegeBoard, but if you just Google net price calculator and the name of your school, the net price calculator will pop up. Most of them are on the CollegeBoard site. Some of them are on the school's own site. Best thing about them is they're only about 15 to 20 questions. So it's very easy to kind of fill out and then change certain things. So if maybe you had a job loss this year and your taxes are going to be different in 2020 than they would be in 2021, or certain things have happened as far as being furloughed or full-time work or part-time work or medical expenses, these things are great to kind of figure out how generous your school is. And a lot of the net price calculators will not just show you how much grant money the school will give you as far as free aid on the grant side from the financial aid department, but a lot of them will also show you how much scholarship money your student's eligible based on their academics. So these are great tools to utilize. What I did for you guys, just going to give you an idea of how they work, I actually went on to Harvard and started and did their net price calculator to kind of give you guys an overview of how these things work. Now at Harvard, everything included, Harvard cost everything included $76,791. Okay. One of the good things you're going to find out too about the net price calculators is they break down the cost. How much is tuition? How much is the room and board? How much does the average book cost? Transportation, so on and so forth. What I did was I went into Harvard's net price calculator. I plugged in that I have a family of 4 with the parents making $100,000 and us having $50,000 in savings outside retirement, just to give you a broad idea of how it works. Harvard came back and said that based on your situation, we will give you $64,841 in scholarship money, which is really grant money because Harvard doesn't do scholarships. It's just a terminology difference, but they're both free money, which means at the end of the day, you will be paying less than $12,000 to attend Harvard. Now you're probably thinking, well, Ed, that's great, but my student's not getting into Harvard. It doesn't matter. Every school now has a net price calculator. Fairleigh Dickinson, Rider, Monmouth, Quinnipiac, Ithaca, Case Western, they all have net price calculators, which allows you to educate yourself on the cost of universities and how generous they can be. And you can also look to see, based on income you have coming in next year, will you be in the mix? Now, the way it works for taxes, by the way, for seniors this year, you're using 2019 taxes. For juniors on the call today, you'll be using 2020 taxes, essentially the tax year that just finished. That will be your financial aid taxes used for your financial aid forms in senior year. For sophomores, you'll be using 2021 taxes, the year we're in right now, to fill out your financial aid forms. So I'm just giving you guys information and ideas of what you can do, kind of figure out what colleges are generous for you by going out there and utilizing the information I'm giving you tonight to figure out what schools do work for you financially and hopefully also from an academic point of view as well. That being said, let's talk about the new changes, a lot of the new changes because of the CARES Act. Now, one of the big changes in the CARES Act is before, or this is really going to affect the sophomores and the juniors more than anybody else. In the next year or two, the Congress, government, so on and so forth, through the CARES Act and through some other things that happen in the federal government, have now said that they're looking to change the FAFSA form, the first form you'll be filling out for financial aid purposes, the FAFSA form to basically say that you can only choose, if you're divorced or separated, you can no longer choose which parent you choose on the FAFSA form to use. Before the changes they're looking to make, you can choose whichever parent you wanted. So if mom and dad divorced or were separated and mom made $50,000 and dad made $50,000, it didn't matter to them because it's the same thing. But in the past, if mom made, let's say, $100,000 and dad only made $50,000, you could say the custodial parent is dad on the financial aid forms. So you can use the lower income. And what happens is once you choose the custodial parent on the FAFSA, the other parent, mom's income information, is erased. So in a way, you can actually help your cause by choosing the parent that has less income. They've eliminated that, or they're looking to eliminate that. So the CARES Act and the new changes and everything else happening through the federal government, one of the things you're looking for is if you are divorced, whichever parent claims the student now on the taxes going forward in about another year or two will be the parent that you have to use on the financial aid forms. So good, bad, or indifferent, things that used to be helpful are being taken out of the loopholes, unfortunately. In addition to that, certain things are going to stay the same. If you are remarried, the step parent's information of the parent who's claiming that student, their information, their income and assets will still count, unfortunately. This is a big change for the sophomores and juniors. If you had known or looked into financial aid before, if you're divorced or separated from your spouse, you could typically choose whichever parent you wanted as a custodial parent, no matter if they live with them or not. It's basically your choice before, depending on, I used to tell parents to choose a parent with less income, but that is basically being taken away, unfortunately. That's one of the big changes that's coming in, unfortunately, for parents. One of the other big changes, one of the things that's not changing, thankfully, is this, or at least not across the board. If you have multiple students in school at the same time, one of the benefits is that if one student goes off to college, whatever that student is supposed to be paying towards college based on you filling out all your financial aid forms, That amount they're telling you you're supposed to fill out, if you did the net price calculator and it says based on one student going there, once you have a second student coming in, the way the math works is they reduce the amount you're supposed to pay in half. Let me give you an example on the chart here. If you have one student going off to college, let's say you look, the college costs $35,000, their cost of attendance, and you fill out all your financial aid forms, and the financial aid forms say you, for that one student going off to college, are able to pay an estimated family contribution amount of $20,000. That means you have $15,000 of financial aid space left over to help pay for the college, to help pay you guys or give you guys financial assistance of grants and scholarship money. However, if you have two students going to college at the same time, I'm just going to say they're going to similar schools. They don't have to go to the same school, by the way. Just similar cost schools, so $35,000 a piece or $70,000 total, just to make the math easy. So you fill out the forms again, and once again, the form says you can pay $20,000 again. However, it's $20,000 for both of them now. So now you're only paying $10,000 for student one and $10,000 for student two, which means now you increase the financial aid space of student number one from 15,000 space available to 25,000 space available. So having multiple students in school at the same time is actually very beneficial, believe it or not. That being said, let's talk about social media landmines. One of the biggest issues that has basically crept up over the last, I would say, 7 or 8 years is that between Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, all these different medians of being able to express yourself, good, bad, or indifferent. What I tell students all the time is this: if you have anything on your social media pages, any of them, I don't know which pages you're on, whether it be Facebook or Twitter or Snapchat or whatever it may be, your goal right off the bat is to make everything private. Good, bad, or indifferent, something you might think is funny that your parents tell you is not funny or not as humorous as you might think it is, might offend somebody. So the reality is, going forward, good, bad, or different, if you do have any thing on your social media page that your parents don't like, or for parents on the call tonight, if you think they have stuff on there that you don't think is somebody might not enjoy or like, or whatever it may be, might offend somebody, make them make their pages private. If they tell you, Mom, Dad, I don't want to make it private because I want to get more likes, whatever the situation is, very simple. Do not pay their phone bill. And I say this half jokingly, but I know at least a dozen, maybe 2 dozen admissions officers at high-level colleges, and I'm talking top-tier schools, and they've all told me the same thing. They are going on the social media sites. They are Googling your student's name. And if something pops up and they don't find it funny, that could be the one thing that harpoons your entire application. You could be the perfect applicant for that school, and you will never know that that was the reason they didn't accept you. So that's one of those keys where I tell parents all the time, be aware of what your students are posting because it is out there. Now, teenagers, good, bad, or indifferent, don't realize the ramifications of what's out there if they post it. But once it's posted, it's posted. So I tell students all the time, be careful what you post. Admissions officers are looking. Now, for those looking for more help, more assistance, more guidance, so on and so forth, we do have a newsletter that goes out every single month. Now, the newsletter, to get the newsletter, you basically just have to I'll give you my email at the end. Just shoot me an email, @like the newsletter. It comes out every month and tells you specifically what you need to be doing. It tells sophomores, juniors, seniors, every month what you need to be doing throughout the process. It's basically something I email out to everyone. All you need to do is just email me and just basically say, Ed, I'm from so-and-so high school. This is my grade level, and I'll start sending it out to you. In addition, let's talk about scholarships. Now, the key for scholarships is it's never too early. Now, there's 3 levels of scholarships here. I already talked about one of them before. First level is the admissions office. The admissions offices, by the way, of every college handles scholarship money. The financial aid offices of every college handles scholarships in no way. So if you want information about scholarships, contact this school's admissions office and ask them. I would also be asking not about scholarships before I get into college. You can also ask the admissions office, do you have scholarships here if my student does well academically? So if my student does well as a freshman or a sophomore, maybe makes the dean's list, are there additional scholarships you can get? These are things you'd be asking the admissions office. In addition, I would be going on the online sites, which I'll be showing you guys the online sites in the next slide. Now, if you're going online for scholarship searches, you have to realize this is the most competitive environment as far as you're competing against the world for scholarships. But they're easy to do for most of these websites, which I'm going to give you in a moment. Now, you can actually start applying to scholarships online as early as 6th grade, and they also have scholarships all the way up to PhD levels of education, so graduate programs, MBA, and so on and so forth. Now, the easiest level of scholarship to get as far as from competing against students is locally. I would be asking the guidance office when the scholarship list typically comes out in senior year, and if you maybe can get a copy of this year's senior list to see what's available, then maybe next year we might be able to apply to, or things you might want to do, whether it be community service-based, leadership-based, to get yourself ready for scholarship for senior year. Right? That being said, here are some important websites we talked about. Now, obviously, for the FAFSA form, the reason I don't want to talk about the FAFSA form for juniors and seniors on the call tonight is because another change the CARE Act and the government's bringing in is they're changing the entire FAFSA form. Now, they're looking to streamline it from about 90 questions down around 15 to 20, 25 questions. So I didn't want to get too much into the FAFSA form, but I did tell you guys, obviously, that the FAFSA is one of the forms you will be filling out in senior year only. So for juniors and sophomores, you guys aren't filling out any forms at all financially wise until senior year starts after October 1st, by the way. CollegeBoard, great wealth of knowledge, great resource to utilize, especially if you guys are looking for information about the colleges, scholarships, and everything else. For scholarship searches, my top 3 websites I like the most, and they cover every scholarship out there, is CapX, FastWeb, and FinAid. These are the 3 best scholarships out there, and they're free. Do not pay any scholarship searches. It's a waste of money because these 3 have everything on there for free. In addition, if you're looking for more help, more content, so on and so forth, we do have a Facebook page. You can basically look us up, Principia Prep. We post on there, I would say, every once in a while, not too often. Right now, not too often, but usually during the season, I guess you can call it, September through January, we're posting like almost every other day, and also over the summer too when things are coming out. That being said, if you're looking for more content, more videos about everything college related, we have a ton of videos on YouTube, and we're posting stuff every other week, basically. If you're looking for any videos, I have parents email me all the time. Ed, can you do a video on student loans? I did a student loan video. Ed, can you do a video on work study? I did a video on that. On SAT optional, I did a video on that. On gap year, I did a video on that. So if you want more content, just basically email me. I'll make a video for you guys. It's the easiest way for me to get the content out there. Obviously, between 90-something schools I did this year, I'm just inundated with phone calls, emails, and texts. Which brings me to, if you do need help, if you do have questions, easiest way to get a hold of me is that phone number there. That phone number there is actually my cell phone number, which everyone thinks I'm out of my mind because I have literally constantly every day I have 50, 60 something text messages. The easiest way to get a hold of me, believe it or not, is text message, then email, then phone call. That's the fastest way to get a hold of me, okay? Other than that, if you guys have any questions, once again, text message, email, then phone call. I appreciate everyone from jumping on today's phone call or today's video. I will be posting this onto YouTube shortly. For those who are looking to do the senior year program, we have the senior year presentation starting in about 30 seconds. So if you want to jump on that link, I'd like to thank Christine, obviously, for having us. I don't know if Christine's going to jump on the senior one as well, the senior video, but I'm going to jump on the other senior video. Once again, guys, I am videotaping this, so it will be on the YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel, which helps us all as well. Also, if you comment and like our videos, it helps a tremendous amount. Other than that, I appreciate you guys for coming out. If you want more information about the senior stuff, you guys can jump on the other video. Thank you, Christine. Hopefully, I'll see you on that side as well. Okay, jump out of this one, guys. All right.